We all have all the clairs. We are all mirrors. We can all only heal ourselves, but we can all heal ourselves.
We can all heal ourselves.
And then we are all sending messages and receiving messages all the time. It's just being open enough to listen. You're always sending your pets messages, and they're always sending you messages. So make sure to send them the right messages, and make sure to send everyone else the right messages.
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment,
a podcast that explores the new frontier of energy medicine,
bridging the gap between Western medicine and quantum physics,
giving you easy and practical solutions.
Guided by
me, Dr. Larissa Sharipova,
and me, Priscilla Koblenz. Join us on a journey discovering your harmonic alignment. Animal communication, biofeedback, crystals, the 5 clairs. We cover it all in today's episode of Harmonic Alignment with the amazing Jillian Course. Jillian is a dear friend and just an amazing intuitive healer. She has a background in music as well as veterinary technology. She has spent most of her career helping animals. And now as she transitions into the quantum, she's going to give us some insights on how you can really start to perceive the unseen world in a new way. You don't want to miss this episode with Jillian Course from positiveenergetics.com. Reserve your spot today on the Tuscany Transformation Retreat, June 15th through the 21st, 2025. Reconnect with your inner beauty, power, and abundance. Come join Dr. Larissa Sharipova and myself, Priscilla Koblenz, for 6 nights and 5 full days in the beautiful Tuscan countryside. We'll be staying at a villa that has a gorgeous swimming pool and hot tub, a Turkish bath, as well as this amazing yoga studio overlooking the olive trees and the vineyards. We'll offer daily yoga, meditation, breath work, sound healing, spa treatments, a Tuscan bike ride, a pasta cooking class, olive oil and wine tastings, as well as amazing, amazing food. For more detailed itinerary, check out our website and reserve your spot today. We've got 9 spots available. I am so excited today here on Harmonic Alignment. We're here with not only an incredible healer, but also a dear friend of mine. So Jillian Course, welcome to Harmonic Alignment.
Thank you for having me, Priscilla.
Oh, so excited.
I'm so honored to be here. And also, you're only allowed to say this once, so I'm going to say it. This is my first podcast, so thank you for having me for my first podcast.
Oh, well, we're honored. Well, you are doing some really innovative work in the field of bioenergetics, in the field of animal communication, and the field of using crystal lights with Solera gems to help people. So there's so many cool things that we can talk about, but let's start with the animals. Tell me how you connect with animals and how animal communication started for you.
They say when you're a child, you know what your purpose is when you come into this life. And then, life happens and you have to go through the ups and downs before you remember. And as a kid, all I wanted was pets. I wanted to be around animals. I wanted to go hang out with the wild animals. I loved animals. And as a kid, when my very first bunny died, I remember hearing him thump that very pronounced bunny thump on my floor after he had passed. And I remember seeing an indentation on the bed where he would hop after he had passed. And I told my parents, and my parents said, oh, it's just a newer house. It's just creaky. It's just creaky house. And of course, when they said that, all of this disappeared and went away for years and years and years. And then actually a mutual friend of ours came over to my house for dinner. It was the first time she'd ever been to my house. And she walked into our house and she said, you can communicate with animals. And I said, really? How? She said, I don't know. I said, can you communicate with animals? No. And I'm like, well then, what made you say that? She goes, I don't know. It wasn't from me. It just came out. And within 2 weeks, I could audibly hear my dog speaking to me.
Wow, that's incredible.
So I've kind of defined it into a process now. However, they all have different languages. And just like we all have all of the clairs, right? So clairvoyance is clairseeing, clairaudience is clear hearing. Clairsentience is clear feeling. There are other ones. There's clear smelling. There's clear tasting. There's clear cognizance, which is just clear knowing. They also have these too. And I always say you have a first language, but you can speak all of the languages. So we can all speak all of these languages. It's just learning how to speak them. My first language is clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So I tend to feel other bodies and I can speak body language. I have a language that I kind of made up if they won't talk to me any other way, where I can tell them to show me in my body that something's a yes or if something's a no.
Oh, okay.
But my dog was talking to me in clairaudience, so he was just talking to me with straight words.
Wow.
As time goes on and I'm trying to get better at this art, I kind of got to the point where I first look at the animal's eyes. I ask them if it's okay if I enter their body, and I go in through their chakras. And then I come out the way I went in, and then we're connected. And I always know that I'm talking with an animal because their heart chakra is so much bigger than a human's heart chakra.
Wow, I love that.
So females tend to live in their top 3 chakras. Males tend to live in their bottom 3 chakras. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rules. I don't think I've ever met or talked to an animal that's heart chakra wasn't the biggest of all of their chakras.
You know, what that means, that they really are these wonderful light love beings that are here to help heal us. What that tells me is that animals are bringing more love on the planet.
So one of the interesting things that's happened over the course of talking with animals, my cat who passed away in 2018, who was like, I always say, if you're passing of your heart pet, who's like the never forget pet, he started talking with me from the other side.
Wow.
And he told me all about what soul contracts are. And that animals come into this life with a soul contract to their owners. We think we go find them. They think the exact opposite. They think they find us. So they come onto this earth knowing where they need to go and knowing what they need to do. And when they get with you, I don't ever say the term like you're your dog's mom or you're your cat's dad or whatever. I like saying guardian, because they think they're taking care of us as much as we think we're taking care of them. So we think, oh, well, we have to go home and feed Fluffy, and, we have to let Fluffy out, and we have to walk Fluffy around the neighborhood. And they think, I have to go take all of John's emotional pain today, or I have to go take all of Franny's physical pain today. So they think they have just as important of a job as we do. So they are here to help.
It's like mutual. We're here supporting each other in this mutual love field. And I love that they're actually focusing in on our healing. And that was kind of my next question was, when you're communicating with an animal, are you trying to help the owner understand if they're having a health issue or if there's a behavioral issue? What's the benefits of it?
When I go to talk with an animal, I want the animal to be heard. So even though the owner is the one that commissions me to do this, I always think the animal is my client. So I'm doing this so that the animal can be heard. And the owner usually has questions for their animal. And most of the time, the animal actually answers the questions before I even ask them. However, sometimes the animal doesn't want to answer those questions. The animal wants to talk about something completely different. Like the animal wants to talk about, hey, I really don't like getting in the car.
You've had them say, no, I do not want to get in the car. Mom and Dad, you need to listen to this.
This is what we're talking about right now. We will talk about all of these other things at a later date. Right now, we're talking about not getting in the car. A lot of times people will ask health questions. They will ask other questions. And what I find so interesting is most of the animals that the owners have health questions for, the animals don't care about themselves. They care about the owner. So time after time, I've actually had an animal say, what's going on, in the owner's stomach? Like, we're not here to talk about my lungs. We're here to talk about the owner's stomach. I'm concerned. Or we're here to talk about the owner's arm or whatever ailment the owner has is actually what the animal wants to bring up and not necessarily what's going on with the animal. So again, I like to think that my job is to make the animal fully heard because the animal is my client. And in doing that, all the parties involved are getting help. Because we have these little soul families, and they're here to serve us as much as we're here to serve them. We're each other's guardians. So by listening to what the animal has to say, I think that that's the help in itself. When I talk, I'll say words, but sometimes they're not giving me words again. Sometimes they're giving me pictures, or they're giving me body language, or they're just giving me knowing, which is also very strange when I just know an event that happened. But I'm trying to describe it to the best of my ability. But sometimes it's not the description that matters. It's what the animal cares about that matters. It's not the fact that you had to get in the car. It's not the fact that you were asking the animal about what on them was in pain. It's the fact that all they cared about was you.
I love that. So that's the healing that's happening, is you're becoming the voice for the animal so the owner can fully understand what's going on with the animal and what they're thinking and feeling.
And maybe too, how to just strengthen their relationship. I mean, if they came to an animal communicator, they're probably already interested in strengthening the relationship.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So recently I asked you to check in on Furby because she's having all of these digestive issues. And at 19, you know, she's quite the little old lady. But you gave me some really interesting insight today on Furby, that she communicated that it's not even her stomach that's bothering her. She's cold, and then she has this earache. Was there anything else that Furby was trying to communicate?
She was trying to open her eye that she doesn't have.
Right.
But it was funny because you said that her stomach was upset.
Right.
And here she is, the first thing she tells me is she's cold. And I told her there's a heating pad right there. You should probably lay on the heating pad instead.
And she kind of got up and went back to the heating pad.
And then she just wanted to talk about this ear clogged feeling that was going into postnasal drip. Yeah. She didn't really care about her intestines at the moment that I talked with her. That could have been the reason that she was having an upset stomach. I'm not sure, but that was where she wanted to focus. Not on the upset stomach, not on anything else.
And you said she was fully in her body, had no desire to leave?
Nope. She also, when I kept asking her what we can do to help, at first it was like, nothing. And then she said that she was thirsty, and that was what we could do to help. I like to say that talking with an animal is like talking with a 7-year-old or someone whose first language isn't English. So you kind of have to decipher the riddle of what they're saying, but you have to remember, if you talk with a 7-year-old and you say like, hey, how was school today? They might want to talk about something that one of their friends did at recess and not school itself. So it's kind of the same thing. They also live in the moment very much. So I got this download a few years ago that they can live in the moment and we can't, because we fear death where they only fear pain. So they don't see this as like a very linear timeline. They just see like everything stays the same after you're gone. So they just live in the moment so much that if they don't want to talk about what we're talking about at the moment, they'll just bring up something else I found.
That's hysterical. I love that. Well, one of the things that you're also finding very helpful with animals is this technology called the Solera gems. Tell us how you found the Solera gems. I'm so fascinated by this.
So I actually found the Solera gems because of you. I came to your house for a dinner that we were having. At the time I had vocal nodules, so I couldn't talk.
That's right.
And I lost my voice, and I'm like, I still want to come. I'm just going to be a silent member. So I come over and you hand me this Solera gem, and it's just a little drone light with an attachment that has an array of different crystals in it. It has some crystals that have been charged for up to 20 years in it. It has hand-picked crystals by Mike Broadwell, who's the person who makes them. And it has a color filter. So what you get with it is you get 4 different frequencies. You get the light frequency. You get a pulsing frequency, which you can make pulse either at your delta brainwaves, which are your healing, rest, and digest brainwaves, or you can make them pulse at your beta brainwaves, your alpha brainwaves, so your like get up and go brainwaves. So you can either make your body heal, rest, and digest, or you can make things like your immune system or even your meridians get up and go.
So give more energy to the body based on the speed of the pulse of the light.
Yes, to just match your brain wave pattern.
Okay.
And then you get the color. So there's a lot of power in color. By the way, we were both wearing white today. Yeah. That was a complete accident, but there's a lot of power in color. And then you get the crystals. And by projecting the light through everything, you're projecting the energy of the light, the color, the crystals through everything, basically into your own body or into your own biofield. So I grabbed this light, I put it on my neck. Within 2 hours, I can talk again, which was pretty crazy. Other times, it's taken me weeks to be able to have a voice like I did within 2 hours. So you say, go home, just use it, just play with it. I'm like, okay. I bring it home. I got absolutely addicted to it. It's wonderful. And I go to an event, and there's someone that I know there, and she's limping. And I haven't seen her for a while. I'm like, why are you limping? She's like, oh, I have this hip problem. It's been there for a few months. Come outside with me. So I walk outside with her and I go, hey, I have this crystal light. Like, I could try to use it on you. She goes, okay. And we're standing outside for about 5 minutes. And I go to put it on her hips where she says it hurts. And to my surprise, the light drags me up almost like a magnet midway up her back. And she goes, that's not where it hurts. I'm like, this is where it's coming from. And she says, how do you know that? I'm as puzzled as she is. I'm like, I'm not sure. The light took me here. This is where I'm going to leave it. So I left it there for a few minutes. I kind of moved it around too. It would kind of let go of the magnet feeling pull and pull me somewhere else. And in 5 minutes, she's like, okay, let's go back inside. And she walked back inside with no limp.
Oh, that's amazing.
And she told everyone at the booth that she was working. So the next day I was being called by every person to come bring the magic light. And to my surprise, every single person that I treated, the light did the same thing. It would either pull me in their own body or it would show me in my body where it needed to be. It was like as soon as I touched them, it would go there. And I really think that things like that just start to open up our clairs. Because again, we all have these clair superpowers, clairvoyance, clairaudience. And I think that really started to open up my clairsentience. So I didn't even need the light at some point to just go and feel where the blockages are in people's bodies.
I love that you just said that we're all opening up to the clairs. We were both listening to Pam Gregory this week, and I think she mentions that's part of the consciousness that's coming, that as we rise in consciousness, I think most people can recognize that they start to be more intuitive, like they have a knowing. That's, to me, probably for women, it's a feeling like somewhere in your body that's a visceral, yes, this is my next step, or no. We can start to recognize that. But I love that you said that. So you're actually getting the clairs and, being able to hear things, being able to see things that others aren't seeing, right? Because you're at a different frequency or a different level. So thank you for pointing that out, because I think that is so exciting for people to know that it's coming. There's so many more of us are going to be able to expand that sense of our knowing.
I think we all already have it.
Okay.
It's just learning how to speak that language, right? And it's learning how to sit down and listen to that language. Because sometimes when you feel that little thing inside of you that says, yes, move forward with this, or no, don't move forward with this, how many times before you realized what that was, did you not listen to it?
I feel like the universe just keeps hitting you upside the head sometimes. I'll get that little nudge. Oh, you need to write that thank you note, or you need to call that person. And then it comes, and then you put it off. But the opportune time is the first time. Like if you had followed through, the more abundance of that opportunity would have been there the moment that you immediately follow the instinct.
But we are still here to experience things.
Yeah.
And we still have free will, and we still have choice. Yeah. And,
there's no right or wrong. I mean,
you
we're
can't
not doing it
regret
wrong.
not listening to it. But, just sitting to be able to listen to it, I think is maybe the first step. To listen to it, or to feel it in your body, or to hear it with your ears. Because we all have this. Like, we can all talk to animals. Animals are sending us messages constantly. We are sending them messages constantly. We're sending people messages constantly. That's why sometimes you start to think of someone, and then all of a sudden they call your phone.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you know what someone else is about to say, or what they're about to do, is because you're already receiving that message from them. And I think we as humans tend to go, oh no, that didn't really happen. But it did. It's the same way sometimes it's time to feed Furby, or it's time to feed the goats, and you're doing something. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to go, and I have to go feed my pets. Right. And you get up to go feed them, and you realize it's actually 2 hours before you were supposed to feed them. that wasn't an accident. They sent you the message they were hungry and they were trying to pull one over on you.
That's funny.
So we're always sending back and forth messages.
But I'm so excited. You actually sell the Solera gems and you even do trainings on those. Can you tell us what the process is if someone is interested and wants to do a training with you and or purchase a Solera gem?
You can contact me at jill@positiveenergetics.com or on my website, www.positive-energetics.com. I do not have anything scheduled at the moment, but hopefully will shortly to have a training. The training is a 2-day training. It's basically an immersion experience. By the way, none of this is meant to cure, diagnose, prevent disease. It's all for entertainment purposes only. Animal communication too. I am not a vet, nor do I claim to be. I am not a trainer, nor do I claim to be. But in the immersion experience, you not only get to experience the Solera gems, you also get to experience trying to maneuver them on the other people who are there as well. So you kind of get to treat and to be treated.
And there are multiple different versions of the crystal combinations.
Yes.
Can you tell us some of the combinations?
So amethyst is my favorite, which is amethyst and kyanite. The kyanite pulls the energy that you get into the amethyst when you treat with it. So for example, if you were to use the amethyst on you, the amethyst is going to be pumping in information and pulling out information. You don't want those crystals to get all clogged. So the kyanite will actually pull the information from the amethyst so that the amethyst isn't just clogging up with your information. There are other combinations as well. For example, malachite has the kyanite and citrine in it too. There are multiple other combinations of crystals in the lights, but mainly we focus on the one that we're using. So we'll focus on the amethyst, or we'll focus on the moonstone, or we focus on the carnelian.
Or the emerald, one of my favorites.
You get to come experience them. You get to treat and be treated. And then we realign your assemblage point, which is a point that kind of is in the middle of the egg of your aura.
I've experienced it. It was really quite fascinating and super helpful and healing in a small group setting to go through this experience with some like-minded folks.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's like superhero school where everybody does get to sit and focus on their clairs because, again, I
watched someone who was able to see colors around people, auras, for the first time through that experience with you. And someone there already had that ability, but he was watching everyone else tap into their ability. So for me, I've used the Solera gems for pain, discomfort, digestion issues, sleep issues. I mean, those are things that have worked well for me, but I also put them on Furby, my cat, when I think that she's having some issues with whether it be hip or joint pain, or maybe it's even nervous system reset.
And I think too, one of the things is just putting you into rest and digest and just relaxing your body. We don't relax as much as we should. I'm very guilty of it. I do not relax as much as I should. So just having the lights is very helpful for me to help me relax.
Right. Some of the best night's sleep you've ever had, or best naps you've ever had, could sometimes be with the amethyst on your crown chakra, which I think is really helpful. One of the other things that we have in common, besides the Solera, is that we were both iMate practitioners. And I know you have really trained more extensively and have actually presented some workshops on iMate. But iMate was Dr. Bernard Straley. I received my iMate training in the same as you, 2021.
Yes.
And so tell me your experience with the iMate.
So the iMate is a biofeedback machine, meaning frequency for your body, that basically just works to try to bring your body back to homeostasis. So if you are, for example, having an issue processing a vitamin, a mineral, something like that, it works based on Namberpad's allergy elimination techniques, or NATE. Dr. Namberpad has a wonderful book that I recommend people read that's called How to Eliminate Allergies. So it is based on that, but it is not that. It is just a biofeedback machine. Everyone, even in allopathic medicine, is starting to use biofeedback machines. So they're starting to use machines that just do 1 or 2 frequencies. I know some psychologists and psychiatrists who use just one biofeedback machine with a few frequencies just to help calm down people with anxiety while they talk with them.
Wow.
I heard that they're using biofeedback machines in some of the eye hospitals.
No, I actually had a conversation with someone that they are absolutely using frequencies now to help with some eye healing issues. There are multiple biofeedback devices on the market. There are hundreds of different versions of this. And I always just say that means it works, or there wouldn't be this many people going into the field. This is that conversation of like, I believe dis-ease in the body, that we are actually going to see it in the energy fields of the body before it shows up in the physical in the body. So that hip or back pain is somehow in the field first before it ends up there. Isn't that fascinating? Because that's the idea that we are governed by physics, not by chemistry. Chemistry is too slow, that the physics, the energy fields of the body are happening so much faster than we can even process.
And then you have all of these different energy fields, right? Like we think we are just our physical body, but no, we're our emotional body, we're our mental body, we're our spiritual body, we're our epigenetic body. We have cellular memory from at least 6 generations back in our family lineage. And then we have our physical body. So that ailment that showed up, how much of that is an emotion, or how much of that is something else that's going on, whether it's something that happened to your grandmother.
I'm so glad you said that, Jillian, because I think we have tried to simplify health in saying that A plus B equals C. When someone shows up with a headache and another person shows up with a headache, I believe they got there in very different pathways. And so for you, that headache may be emotional stress. For the other person, it may be dehydration. The other person, it may be that their blood sugar is low. There's so many combinations, and it's never, to me, just one thing that created that headache.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's kind of what the biofeedback machines do too, right? They look at the body, they bounce a bunch of frequencies off of the body, and then they read what the body bounces back, rather than having, 3 frequencies.
In real time, it's like a snapshot of that body in that second, in that moment.
Because when you think about our ailments, like you said, the headache came from 3 different places. It was 3 different people. It came from 3 different places. The headache's just a symptom of what else is going on. Right. How many of the things that we think are our ailments are actually just our symptoms?
Right, and we don't know the actual root cause. Right, there could be a whole fundamental thing. I mean, that headache could be something major for one person and something minor for another person.
And it could be that the other person, went outside and breathed in too much pollen.
Right, and their body just can't adjust to that. So the idea is that if you've got now a snapshot of priorities or places where the frequency is now giving you an indication that it needs support, then what's the next step?
So I use a pendulum for everything. So I do pendulum check what the body would like, what would be beneficial for that body at that time, and then it's just bringing the body back to homeostasis. Again, not...
And just for our listeners, the pendulum and or muscle testing is kind of the same formula. It's the idea that the body knows what it needs, that there's a truth that resides beyond the thinking mind. And so you can influence your process by just your conscious and unconscious mind. And so we're trying to bypass any biases, I guess, and determining what's the best course. And so you kind of use a neutral thing, whether it's muscle testing or a pendulum, to find out what the next steps are.
Yes, and I use a pendulum in place of muscle testing, honestly, because I will not treat animals in person. They live in the moment, so I only treat them from afar. And then I don't have anybody to muscle test. So that's why I started using a pendulum. I love to muscle test, don't get me wrong, but you get an exact answer on the pendulum every time. So they're very interchangeable. So all we're doing is giving the body the frequencies that it needs to go back to homeostasis. So basically, a body at homeostasis can help itself, right? So
yeah, I keep saying if the body has enough energy, energetic support, then the body will do what it needs to do to heal. Like if you can get enough energy in the pathways or clear the blockages or support it on an energetic level, then I think the body's always trying to find optimal health. That all symptoms, everything's playing out to help the body get back to homeostasis.
yes, exactly. And sometimes you never even need to look at what was going on, because then the body, once it reaches homeostasis, it knows how to heal. The only person that you can heal is yourself. That's it. Like,
Amen.
Our bodies know exactly what to do. I don't heal anybody. They heal themselves. I'm just a mirror to reflect their own healing ability back on them.
Oh, I love that one, Jillian. That's a huge mic drop moment, that you don't heal anyone. You're a mirror reflecting back what that person has come in looking for to assist them on their next step of their own healing journey. But they have to heal themselves. And they have to realize, I think, first and foremost, it's possible. And that we're discovering with quantum physics in the last 100 years that the unseen is more at play than we ever even imagined. I get all excited about that. I mean, the placebo effect, I just laugh when people say, oh, that's the placebo. Well, clearly something is happening. Something on a cellular level has just healed a person from a terminal disease, right? And you're calling it the placebo. Wow, sign me up for that.
And
we
really,
should all be so lucky.
No, you just healed yourself.
Right.
You literally just took your energy and used it for yourself instead of pushing it away from yourself.
Right. The body was able to do that. Oh, I love that. So when you work with the iMate, you're doing that remotely with animals?
Yes. I typically have at least 50% animals, sometimes 50% people. I do both. I've treated all sorts of different animals. I've treated, different people as well. Most people I tend to treat remote as well. It kind of removes the boundary of them having to come to me and then go home afterwards. Because when we're working remote, we can work with basically anyone. When we're working in person, someone actually has to physically get to us, right?
Right, and that can be a trial and tribulation, travel. And I always say that when someone's getting a treatment or having energetic support, it's nice for them to be able to relax, which
Yes.
you can't really do when you're traveling.
And again, getting to somewhere is fine. Getting home after you're nice and relaxed.
It's stressful again, or it can be. It can bring it all back again. So you want to keep that healing lasting as long as possible.
So with remote sessions, someone can go lay in their own bed and take a nap or just relax and just be with themselves as well while they're having these frequencies.
You have these gifts of seeing the unseen, but you've also had a love of crystals and gems. And do you have some particular stones that you use on a regular basis in your own healing?
So I actually have 2 double terminated Lumerian crystals that I'm currently working with. I actually like to hold them when I talk with animals. I'm always wearing different crystals, whatever kind of speaks to me that day. My house probably looks like a crystal store. But there are different ones that I use at different times, and I always think that that's funny. The way that one morning I wake up and I'm about to go out somewhere and I just have to grab this one crystal and keep it with me that day. It's like the body knows exactly what it always needs, right? Because crystals are also frequency. So that's one of those, listening to what you're being told, what your inner voice is telling you, listening to the knowing that you have, and using these tools. I mean, we are all frequency. Everything around us is frequency. And I think that crystals are just a higher frequency. You may be lacking that frequency if you're just, sitting on a couch in front of TV. Maybe that's the frequency that you need. If we lived in a big cave full of crystals, maybe we would need the frequency of going out and finding a certain rock to sit on or finding a certain patch of dirt to sit on. So it's all just finding the frequencies that resonate with you at that time. And remember that everything's always flowing as well. So if a crystal that resonates with me today, tomorrow I might wake up and go, oh, nope, I'm done holding these crystals when I talk with animals. I'm going to hold these other crystals.
You know, it's funny you say that because I have gone in spells most of my life about where I'll use a lot of crystals in and out of just whether I'm wearing them or using them when I meditate or pray. And then I'll put them away for a while and then I'll come back to them. And I've actually come back to quite a few of them recently. And I thought, there must be something shifting or I'm needing support. And that's why I'm gravitating toward this again.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So also remember to clear out your crystals too, because your crystals, again, just like the amethyst, can get gunked up with stuff. So look into clearing crystals, make sure that they're cleared. You can charge your crystals as well.
Do you have a favorite clearing for crystals that you do?
My favorite way to clear crystals is just rinse them underwater.
Okay.
It's so easy and fast. You don't need to wait for a sunny day. You don't need to put them in salt for 5 hours. Like, you can literally just rinse them under the tap water, anything besides selenite, which doesn't need to be cleared anyway. You just rinse them under the tap water, cleared. I clear out my crystal pendulums a lot like that in between clients, just so that it's not clogged with someone else's stuff when I start to ask for someone else. Even though we're talking about all of our woo-woo stuff, we still live in 2024 in America. And we don't always have time to do everything that we want to do. There are plenty of ways, though. I mean, Palo Santo is one of my favorites as well. You can't always stop what you're doing and go find a stick of Palo Santo to burn to clear out your crystals. So again, just rinsing them underwater will clear them. But I've had crystals find their way back to me. One of the craziest things, I had just gotten out of a marriage, and I had somebody who I started dating, and this rose quartz that I always carried with me, I had lost before we started dating. Just completely lost it. No clue where it went, nothing, hadn't seen it in weeks. I went outside to get my mail out of the mailbox as soon as we started dating, and there at the bottom of the mailbox was this rose quartz. So I've had crystals find their way back to me. I have no clue how it got there. Nobody would have found it and come and put it in my mailbox.
Wow.
So I think that they also calling to us.
Right. They're resonating with you as a piece of that. When I have one that breaks, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need to share this with someone else. One of the questions I've always wanted to ask you, Jillian, ever since the first time I met you, you always have some form of head covering, usually a scarf on your head. Can you tell us what that's all about?
When I was a kid, I loved hats and headbands. Like, the thicker the headband, the better. But like, hats all the time, headbands all the time, had no clue why. I just always wanted my head covered. As I got older, I found some crocheted, longer headbands, and then I found some basically fancy dinner napkins that I could tie on my head, bandanas that I could tie on my head. And I didn't actually know why I was doing it. I just always wanted my hair pushed back like that. I always wanted some covering on my head. And when people used to ask me, I used to say, oh, it's so that I'm not always touching my hair. But even if it wasn't in there, I wasn't always touching my hair. So I didn't really understand why. And then I must have been about 25 or 24. And someone came over to me and they said, do you know why you always wear that on your head? And I said, oh, because it keeps my hair out of my face and it keeps me from touching my hair. And they said, no, you wear it to protect yourself so nothing can get in because you're really opened. And when you don't have a head covering on, other things can get in. And it probably took me about a year to process what they said to me. Because, I'm like in my early 20s going like, what? And then I realized I don't drink much, but like every time I would have a drink, it was like I felt so naked if nothing was on my head. It was almost like I didn't even want to drink. When you drink, your cord disattaches a little bit and things can get in easier. And it was like I felt completely naked. I was like, oh, I need something on my head. And I started to realize, oh, wait, I do put it on my head for protection. I won't wear it at home, and then I'll go out into the world and I'll be like, grab what you need, grab your wallet, grab my headscarf. And I just feel more protected that way. I do a lot of protection things because I am open to be able to communicate with animals, because I am open to be able to feel people's energy blockages. I feel like I also need to work a lot on protecting myself. And I think that I innately knew from a young age that this was the first step in protecting myself.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I mean, one of the things about wearing white is that we don't absorb other people's energy and that we reflect the energy, which I think is very helpful for healers to understand. And if you understand that black absorbs everything, just as long as you know it. I see so many unhappy people wearing black all the time, but it's a lot to carry to wear dark colors. You carry a lot of extra burden when you do that.
I never really wore black, and during COVID, my wardrobe filled up with black. I didn't know why. And I kept telling people I would go out to like Walgreens or the organic grocery store, wherever I was going, and I would come home and I would just feel absolutely drained and terrible and go, everybody's auras are off. It's all just darkness. Like, I'm absorbing all this stuff. I feel terrible every time I go out. And it took me a while to realize, oh, hold on a second. My wardrobe changed and I was open to absorbing everything that anyone was putting off. Everyone was scared, so they were probably just putting off fear. Yeah. And as soon as I switched my wardrobe back to what it used to be pre-COVID, I felt so much better, like pretty much instantly. And now, yes, wearing white, it reflects. It's the mirror, right?
What is your version or your understanding of consciousness? And do you think we are rising in consciousness?
So I think that we are all connected. And I think that consciousness is the connection between all of us, all of the plants, the earth, everything. We are all consciousness. And I believe when we pass, our little cup of consciousness, we get to pour it back into the ocean of consciousness and relearn all of the things that everybody got to learn and experience. And then when you're ready to go do something else, you can take out your little cup of consciousness and go do something else with it. And you have to remember that your consciousness is now forever changed because it's entered this thing that is true consciousness, right? That is all of us. That's how we're all connected. That's how we can all communicate with each other. That's how we are all source, right? So I think that that is true consciousness. Like, that ocean is true consciousness. Are we rising in consciousness? Yes. I think that we are also much more connected than we ever have been before, too. Even in our lifetime, there was a time when the internet didn't exist. So we are all much more connected, so we can all find each other better. Now, what came first, the rise in consciousness or the connection? The other thing that's happening right now is we've entered this photon belt that is supposed to rise the consciousness even more. But I think that just that connection, and again, what came first? Us being able to connect like this, or the rise in consciousness to connect like this? More and more people are awakening. I'm having conversations with people about my woo-woo stuff that I never in a million years would have pegged as the people that I could have had these woo-woo conversations with.
I have to echo that, because in the last few weeks, I have had what I would have not considered people that were specifically open to these modalities that we talk about. I have had some of the most interesting conversations in the most unusual places. Yeah,
which is
happening.
Amazing.
It's happening everywhere, all the time now. And maybe you and I are at a level where we're attracting it, because I have no desire to talk about what's happening in the 3D world. There's so much more
and I think
out there to talk about. That's so much more important. Why are we here and where are we going?
That's part of the rise in consciousness too, right? Because as you rise in consciousness, you attract everything around you at the same vibration as you, and then that other person, they're going to attract more at that same vibration as them. There's a huge shift happening right now.
Love that. So, Jillian, if you had the ability to speak to every soul on this planet, do you have a message that you would like to share?
We all have all the clairs. We are all mirrors. We can all only heal ourselves, but we can all heal ourselves.
We can all heal ourselves.
And then we are all sending messages and receiving messages all the time. It's just being open enough to listen. you're always sending your pets messages and they're always sending you messages. So make sure to send them the right messages and make sure to send everyone else the right messages. When we say the universe doesn't hear don't and the universe doesn't hear can't, that is 100% true. When you go to leave your house and you tell your dog, don't pee in the house, what you just showed him a picture of in your mind was him peeing in the house. And what you just told him to do, what he just heard, was pee in the house. And what the emotion that he just felt was the fear of you leaving thinking that he's going to pee in the house. Instead, if we change the messages we're sending to everyone, to our friends, to our animals, to please keep the house clean, and we send a message of the house being clean when we get home and the happiness that we feel when we get home and the house is clean, you literally told your dog to keep the house clean and they're going to hear it that way. Just remember that when you're talking to anyone, they're going to hear what you want. They're not going to hear what you don't want, because that's a double negative and that doesn't exist anyway.
Love that. And on that note, don't send the wrong message. Thank you so much, Jillian. I can't wait till next time.
Thank you for having me.
Are you ready for your Energy for Life bioenergetic nest scan? Dr. Larissa Sharapova and myself, Priscilla Koblenz, offer personal, private, 90-minute consults to get you back to optimal health and well-being. And starting in the new year, we're offering an Energy Mastery Program, a monthly membership which will give you access to a monthly scan as well as 2 group masterclasses to help you optimize your wellness in the new year. For more details, visit the show notes or check out harmonicalignment.co. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Harmonic Alignment. If something resonated with you, we would love to hear about it. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review and subscribing so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Thank you. The information contained in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and directions. The products and information received through the podcast should not be used to replace a consultation or advice from your healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or have any healthcare questions, please promptly call your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Dr. Larissa Sharapova and Priscilla Koblenz and the producers, are not responsible for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained in this podcast. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct financial benefit to the product or services referenced.